5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and thank Ranking Member Payne for holding this hearing. Today we'll hear from witnesses about how to improve rail service. But it has been more than 3 months since the Norfolk Southern derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, which occurred on February 3rd, and this committee has yet to hold a hearing to examine what happened. While the Norfolk Southern derailment in East Palestine focused the nation's attention on rail safety, it was not isolated or rare. Since that derailment, a Norfolk Southern train conductor was killed in a rail accident in Cleveland, Ohio. The town of Raymond, Minnesota had to be evacuated due to the derailment of a BNSF train carrying highly flammable material. And a BNSF derailment on the Swinish Reservation in Skagit County in my district spilled 3,500 gallons of diesel fuel near Padilla Bay in my district. Chairman Graves and Chairman Nels, I just again urge you to hold a hearing on rail safety and to schedule consideration of rail safety legislation. Just yesterday, as we know, the Senate Commerce Committee acted on bipartisan rail safety legislation. This committee should do the same. And I commend the Department of Transportation for using its authority to issue interim safety advisories, as I urged in a letter that Ranking Member Payne led and was signed by 70 of our House colleagues. But we can and must do more. Over 400 local elected officials from across the country have sent a letter to our committee in March asking for action on rail safety. Specifically, we need to focus on long trains and the impacts they have on our communities. I've heard from leaders of more than 12 communities in Washington State, including Mayor Naring of Marysville, Mayor Boudreaux of Mount Vernon, and Deputy Mayor May of Blaine, all in my district, about how first responders have difficulty reaching individuals in need of emergency care due to long trains blocking crossings. The trends in rail safety and rail service go hand in hand. While safety has been in the forefront lately, employees and shippers have complained of fewer resources and poor rail safety for many years. The Surface Transportation Board took the extraordinary step of requiring service recovery plans from the 4 largest Class 1 railroads, Union Pacific, BNSF, CSX, and Norfolk Southern, to address chronic problems last year and just extended the requirement last week. The agriculture and energy sectors have been particularly hard hit with irregular rail service. This is impacting communities across the country and our overall economy. Yesterday, the STB held a hearing to determine if a tribal company in New Mexico should receive an emergency rail service order to ensure that it is able to deliver product to the customers. After years of letting rail workers go, including doubling down on furloughs during the pandemic, Class 1 railroads relied on congestion embargoes to compensate for having gutted their own workforce. The railroads issued over 1,000 congestion embargoes last year alone, and every one of those large railroads continue to use this practice, except Canadian Pacific. We can't expect more freight to move by rail in more places, which I support as part of a cleaner, greener surface transportation network, if railroads continue with congestion embargoes, which effectively tell customers to temporarily stop shipping by rail. I urge the railroads to focus on the customers, the communities they pass through, and their employees. The long-term health and resiliency of the supply chain and the economy depends on a stable and functioning freight rail system. We've seen over and over a stable and functioning freight rail system depends on hardworking railroaders. Class 1 railroad performance on both safety and service in recent years has showed that business as usual is not working. A stark example of the dysfunction occurred last year when, after years of cutting workforce to the bone, railroads were unable to negotiate contracts with their own workers, and Congress had to step in to keep freight rail service running. Class 1s have to hire and retain more workers, return locomotives and rail yards to service, and increase training for workers, especially the new and experienced ones, so they can provide more and safer service across the country. The bipartisan infrastructure law is providing historic investments in our nation's infrastructure, and much of the material to build that infrastructure: roads, bridges, airports, transit systems, and rail. And much of that will be transported by rail. The need for rail service will continue to grow as the bipartisan infrastructure law dollars flow to states, to cities, and to counties over the next 4 years. So I look forward to hearing from all of our witnesses today on their suggestions to shore up our supply chain and improve rail service to move America forward. With that, I yield back.